And now for something completely different. This is a 1991 Fujifilm Rensha Cardia. It has to be one of the weirdest cameras ever made. It is a plastic point and shoot with a fixed shutter of 1/125th, a fixed aperture of f9.5, no autofocus, in fact no manual focus, in fact no manual controls at all. It was designed for one specific purpose, and a very niche purpose at that. Golf. See, what is interesting about the Rensha Cardia, and what really sets it apart from any other 35mm camera, is that it sports 8 tiny little lenses in 2 groups of 4 that each take a photo in quick succession, creating a burst of 8 separate shots over 2 standard 35mm frames. The idea was you'd have somebody photograph your golf swing so you could iron out any potential kinks. Whilst the camera is fixed focus and devoid of any manual controls, there are 2 switches on the camera. The first allows you to switch the direction of travel of the burst, either from right to left or from left to right, depending on your preference, and a second switch that allows you to toggle between the 3 burst speeds: normal, fast and very fast. The fastest speed is a sprightly 8 frames in 0.3 seconds. The fast burst is spread out over 1.2 seconds, and the slowest burst is 2 seconds. The 8 images are taken over 2 standard 35mm frames, but do not occupy the entire height of the frame. As you can see from my first roll, they run in a little strip down the middle, and are effectively a little over 1/8 of the size of a normal 35mm frame. It's a reasonable size that leaves just enough detail to be usable. This is the original Rensha Cardia, but later a model was actually produced with 16 lenses that doubled up vertically so you could have 8 images per 35mm frame, perhaps a little overkill. Now obviously, with these tiny f9.5 lenses and no manual controls, you can't expect the image quality to be technically perfect. It's going to overexpose, underexpose, have little in the way of overall sharpness, too much contrast, too little contrast, no shallow depth of field, the list goes on. But all of this aside, in the right situations, this camera has a unique ability to tell a story like no other. Storytelling is perhaps the most fundamentally important principle of photography to me, and what you have here is a storytelling machine, effectively making a flattened printable GIF. Hell, you could even produce animated GIFs with this too in Photoshop if you were so inclined, and I know this is one way that people are using this camera to much success. Okay, so you could get kind of the same results in post with a modern digital camera with high frame rates, or even an old 35mm like the Nikon F5 which can shoot up to 8 frames a second. But the nice thing about the Rensha is there is no post. It sews it all together for you. Although it's not optically perfect, it has a charm all of its own that only adds to the narrative in my opinion, much in the same way that there is a feeling you get from handling an old Polaroid image that is more than the sum of all its parts. It is a one-off snapshot of time that evokes something that digital images simply cannot. In practice, there are 2 main ways of using the camera. Either hold the camera still and let the movement take place inside the frame, or track your subject by moving the camera and let the background be the part that shows the movement. Although you are taking a total of 8 images over 2 frames, my preference would be to only use one single frame of 4, choosing the best of the 2 produced. I've only had chance to put one test roll through the Cardia, but I'm already imagining the many ways I can put it to good use. Portraiture, fashion, street photography, photojournalism, travel. It's ironic. For a camera that was designed with one very specific niche purpose in mind, I actually think it might be one of my most versatile cameras. Sadly, these were only released in Japan, so you'll need to import one. They are pretty rare and do go for good money. The ball probably starts rolling around the £200 mark. You also need to be aware that these were made fairly cheaply, as they were never intended for fine art purposes. So, not only are they externally all plastic, but most of the internals are plastic too. I bought mine as new, and I could see when it arrived that it had clearly never been used. But when I inserted my first film, it quickly dawned on me that it wasn't advancing when I rotated the plastic dial. It was simple to open up the camera and immediately obvious that one of the little plastic cogs had split. It looked like a manufacturing defect. Luckily, a little bit of Araldite sorted everything, but my advice is treat the Rensha Cardia with kid gloves if you want to get the longest life from it. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different camera review. I look forward to showing you some of the images I create with this funky camera in the future.